Question number 42. COLAT Company. COLAT Company manufactures aluminium products and operates in a region that has suffered a natural disaster. On 1st of November 17, there has been an increase in operating costs as the company had to replace a regional supplier with a more costly international supplier. The year end of COLAT Company is 31st of December 17. Okay? Discuss discuss why sustainability has become an important aspect of investor analysis. The company. Note, there is no requirement to refer to any exhibit when answering questions. Oh, okay. But discuss why sustainability has become an important aspect. Sustainability is currently the hot topic in accounting system. This is because of the fact that uh, you know investors are becoming more and more aware about the investors are becoming more and more aware about the growing. पहले तो एक काम करते हैं, सस्टेनेबिलिटी क्या होता है वो बता देते हैं कि सस्टेनेबिलिटी इज द प्रोसेस ऑफ सस्टेनेबिलिटी द प्रोसेस ऑफ आइडेंटिफाइंग और रिस्टोरिंग द करंट नीड्स identifying and restoring the current needs in order so that the needs can be fulfilled by the future generations. ये होता है sustainability. It is currently becoming a hot topic because investors are becoming more and more aware of the fact that how the process of their work affects the or the process of their manufacture or production of certain products may affect or harm the environment. The investors want to uh, the investors want to picturize the company as a company that is highly efficient in sustainability and is fulfilling all the 17 SDGs which were being given by the UN, that is United Nations. United Nations. 17 SDGs में क्या क्या आते हैं? नो हंगर, जीरो हंगर, नो पॉवर्टी, फुल एम्प्लॉयमेंट एक्सेट्रा, या नो नो अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट, जो भी ये सब आते हैं. This is also because the consumers will buy or consumers will use the products which are less harmful to the environment. This is because of the increasing awareness that the consumers have. Because of sustainability, there are chances that the government funding would increase. Government funding would increase, thus leading to governments granting more uh, efficient grant. Efficient is not the right word. Government granting more wealthy grants so that the company can uh, manufacture. Or company can use it in their own working needs. और क्या हो सकता है? The reputation of the company increases and thus may lead to an advantage position when it comes to competitors, when it comes to company competing with its competitors. ये पॉइंट बहुत, आई थिंक 4 मार्क्स के लिए इतना इनफ है. Major the companies are looking invest in important consideration. हाँ, अगर ये देखो, ये जो पैराग्राफ दिया उन्होंने, investors need to understand variety of factors making investor decision. Then the nature of the companies in which they look to invest is important. Uh, the investors might not want to invest in a company that does not does not involves sustainability factors or is harmful to the environment, as they would also want to save their own reputation, as there's the need to incorporate sustainability factors into investment decisions, as the need to incorporate. So if the companies are fulfilling all the sustainability factors and are more driven towards sustainability, then the investors then the potential investors might want to invest in the company, and that too at a reasonable rate of return. ये बोल सकते हैं. Question number 42 कोलैट, ठीक है। ये रहा। Sustainability has become increasingly crucial aspect of investing. There is growing recognition that sustainability can have a significant effect on the company financial performance. Investors are increasingly integrating consideration of sustainability issues and metrics into the decision making. Investors require a better understanding of wider social and environmental context in which the business operates. This creates a greater trust and credibility with investors and reduced risk of investors using inaccurate information to make the decisions about the company. ठीक है, basic है पहला तो। Investors have shown an appetite for products which recognize and reflect relationship with the between the investments and social and environmental conduct. Investors need to completely understand the nature of the companies in which they are looking to invest and need to incorporate material sustainability factors into the investment. ये वाला वर्ड मटेरियल बोल देते हैं यार, मटेरियलिटी हर जगह पे आता है। They need to understand whether there are material risks or opportunities connected with the sustainability factors which do not appear in traditional financial reports. The materiality will differ from sector to sector, industry to industry. Sustainability is often unique to the sector. This analysis can be the डिसाइडिंग फैक्टर बिटवीन अदरवाइज आइडेंटिकल कंपनीज। हाँ मतलब ये जो जी जो जैसा अपन ने बोला कि वो कंपेरेबिलिटी के ऊपर कि दिस विल हेल्प द कंपनी गेन एन एडवांटेज पोजीशन व्हेन इट कम्स टू कंपटीशन। तो ये चीज इन्होंने सेक्टर टू सेक्टर और इंडस्ट्री टू इंडस्ट्री बोली हुई है। ये एनालिसिस कैन बी कैन बी द deciding factor between otherwise identical companies. If the company is viewed poorly based on sustainability performance, it can lead to a non-investment decisions. The increase, तो ये अपन ने बोला कि like to invest the money elsewhere. The increasing availability of data from companies offers opportunity for rating and ranking analysis as well as observing trends. These advances have led to the quantitative application of sustainability data in the investment analysis and the decision making. Companies need a greater knowledge of investor needs and perspectives to help them make reporting more relevant to investors and clearly communicate the financial value of company sustainability efforts। ठीक है, तो ये अपन बोल देते हैं यहाँ पर। उसके बाद discuss any events affecting COLAT which might indicate that an impairment test ought to be conducted in accordance with IAS 36 impairment of non current। अच्छा ये ना सिर्फ 4 माह के ही ना, 4 और 2 6 माह के लिए आया था वैसे ये, just pointing it out। Afterwards discuss any events affecting COLAT which might indicate impairment test, ठीक है, 3 माह के लिए आया है। तो सबसे पहले तो इम्पेयरमेंट क्या होता है वो अपन बता देंगे। The impairment is a condition when the carrying value of the asset is higher than the recoverable amount. Asset should be tested for impairment. नहीं, indicators of impairment or should be tested annually. However, for all assets, impairment test should not is not compulsory to be done annually. There are two assets in which are goodwill and वो intangible assets which have indefinite useful life that should be tested annually for impairment. अभी as a result of natural disaster, the share price of Collard has declined as a significant amount of non-current assets were destroyed, including the manufacturing facility। तो यही सबसे बड़ा तो एक इंडिकेशन है कि इम्पेयरमेंट होना चाहिए था। In addition, Collard has suffered reputational damage resulting in a decline in customer demand. Because of customer demand, there won't be orders that would come to the company, because of which they won't be able to fulfill the orders, and thus the again the sales would decrease. The non-current asset of Collard company will be, sorry, that were destroyed had a carrying amount of 250 million on 31st of October 17, and the fair value of these non-current assets was 280 million based on the independent appraisal shortly before the date। अच्छा तो हमने फेयर, अच्छा 280 का हमने शॉर्टली अप्रेजल किया हुआ था In addition, Kolar company determined that the power plant will have to be closed and decommissioned earlier than previously expected. The remaining useful life of the power plant will reduce from 25 years to 8 years. So because of this decrease in useful life, this is also an indication of impairment. एंड बिकॉज इट इज एन इंडिकेशन ऑफ इम्पेयरमेंट, तो अभी यहाँ पे क्या हो गया है कि यहाँ पे 25 ईयर्स का 8 ईयर्स हो गया है, तो चेंज इन अकाउंटिंग एस्टिमेट्स करना चाहिए यहाँ पे कि भाई मतलब कि 25 ईयर्स का 8 ईयर्स हो गया, राइट? सो हमारा एस्टिमेट चेंज हो गया अबाउट कि ये प्लांट कितना चलेगा. सो IS 8 चेंजेस इन अकाउंटिंग पॉलिसी, चेंजेस इन अकाउंटिंग एस्टिमेट्स एंड एरर्स के अकॉर्डिंग ये एक एस्टिमेट का एरर है, तो उसको इस तरीके से हम बताएंगे. आई थिंक दिस मच इज enough for 3 marks. ये रहा. If COLAT company determines that events resulting from natural disaster have triggered impairment indicators, an impairment test must be performed in accordance with IAS 36 impairment of assets for the respective assets or cash generating units. In this instance, a decline in customer demand has taken place because has taken place because of the damage in reputation resulting from the disaster. Also, the share price of the COLAT has declined, which again may indicate that the carrying amount of the entity's net assets is higher than the market capitalization. Finally, damage of the manufacturing facility, the diet indicator, and the increase in operating costs resulting from replacement of supplier in the region. तो ये तो सप्लायर इन द रीजन हमने चेंज किया, ये चीज ऊपर दी गई थी यहाँ पे तो ये वाला पॉइंट भी इन्होंने डाला हुआ है, बस उतना बताने के लिए. डैमेज इंटरनेशनल सप्लाई इज एन इनडायरेक्ट इंडिकेटर, दिस एन इनडायरेक्ट इंडिकेटर कि भाई हमको क्यों चेंज करना पड़ रहा है. द इंक्रीज इन कॉस्ट इज एन इंडिकेटर ऑफ इम्पेयरमेंट, डिपेंड्स ऑन सिग्निफिकेंस एंड ड्यूरेशन ऑफ द एक्सपेक्टेड. ये वाला ठीक है. शॉर्ट टर्म टेम्पररी disruptions are not necessarily indicative of an impairment of assets with a long-term remaining useful life. Uh, as a result of the above impairment indicators, the impairment test must be performed in accordance with IAS 36. ये बोला कि short term temporary disruptions are not necessarily indicative of an impairment of assets with a long term useful. तो ये भले ही 25 ईयर से 8 ईयर हो गया, वी हैव टू से इट IAS 8 हम फिर भी बोल सकते हैं, ऐसी कोई दिक्कत वाली बात नहीं. उसके बाद discuss how the following should be accounted for in the financial statements for the year ended 31st of December 17, the destruction of non-current assets and decommissioning of the power plant. Oof. Pollard in the past repaired minor environmental damage that it has caused, but it has never suffered a natural disaster on this scale. There is no legal obligation for Pollard to repair and restore damage caused by the disaster, as this will be the responsibility of the government. The government announced on 1st of December 17 that there would be compensation of $50 million available to repair the environmental damage only, and that companies should apply for compensation by 31st of December 17. By 1st of March 18 the financial. एक मिनट, ये सब चीजें इस जगह एनवायरमेंटल डैमेज में जाएंगे, तो फिर डीकमीशनिंग ऑफ पावर प्लांट ये सब, हाँ ये सब चीजें ना यहीं से ली है उन्होंने, यही सब चीजें ली है. हाँ तो वो IAS 8 वर्जन बोल रहा था ना, वो IAS 8 यहाँ पर डाल सकते हैं. और इम्पैक्ट डिस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ नॉन करंट एसेट्स, तो ये भी अपन एक यहाँ से ना लाइन ले सकते हैं कि यहाँ पे उसने माइनर डैमेजेस तो कवर कर पाता, लेकिन इस स्केल पे उसने कभी किया नहीं है. सो देयर शुड बी questions about the going concern issue of the company as well, and whether the company would be able to prepare the financial statements as per going concern assumption, that is it is able to run the business into the foreseeable future. Usually companies report financial statements on going concern basis itself. However, if they are not sure about the entity's perception about the going concern, or whether the entity will be able to trade in the future, then the financial statement should be prepared on breakup basis. इम्पेयरमेंट का पॉइंट वहीं से ले लेंगे, ठीक है. बिकॉज ऑफ डिस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ नॉन करंट एसेट्स हम लोग वहीं से IAS 36 कॉपी पेस्ट करके यहाँ पर डाल देंगे. देन डीकमीशनिंग के ऊपर जो उन्होंने बोला, इन एडिशन Collard company determined that the power plant will have to be closed and decommissioned earlier than previously expected. The decommissioning cost would have already been included in the non-current assets, or would have been capitalized in the asset itself. Um, I mean, capitalized in the asset itself, and the provision amount would have to be created, uh, would have created in accordance with IAS 37, um, to provisions, contingent liability and contingent assets. तो ये सब हो रहा होगा. Uh, it should be assessed whether the provision amount and the assets decommissioning cost that was capitalized are of the same value or are of a reliable value. वो कि अगर कहीं वैल्यू तो नहीं चेंज हो गई डीकमीशनिंग से, ऐसा. IAS 8 बोल दिया, IAS 8 बोल दिया, IAS 36 बोल दिया, और क्या बोल दिया, IAS 1 भी बोल दिया, प्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स. 4 मार्क के लिए. हम्म. डिस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ नॉन करंट एसेट तो वही आना चाहिए. ठीक है, इतना ही. 4 मार्क के लिए इतना काफी है यार. इन्हें तो बहुत ही छोटा लिखा हुआ है. क्योंकि वी कॉपी पेस्टेड IAS 36 ऊपर से नीचे ना, तो इतना चलता है, मतलब लाइक उतना आंसर और बड़ा बन गया अपना. The destruction of non-current assets results in derecognition of an asset as opposed to an impairment, as there will be no future economic benefits expected either from the use or disposal. Therefore, NCA of 250 million would be derecognized. As regards to the decommissioning of the power plant, IAS 37 provisions, contingent liability and contingent asset requires that a liability is recognized as soon as the obligation arises, which will normally be at the commencement of the operations. Similarly, IAS 36 property, plant and equipment requires initial cost of the item of property, plant and equipment to include the estimate of the amount of cost to dismantle and remove the item. मतलब ही वो decommissioning cost को हमको capitalize करना है, वो अपने सही बोला. और लोकेटेड. हाँ, जस्ट दैट हमने ऐसा अज्यूम किया था कि उन्होंने ऑलरेडी डीकमीशनिंग का वो प्रोविजन वगैरह बनाया होगा. बट दे हैव सेड कि नहीं, अभी के अभी बनाना है प्रोविजन, और अभी के अभी कैपिटलाइज करना है, बस उतना ही फर्क है. एज रिगार्ड्स टू द चेंजेस इन यूजफुल लाइफ ऑफ द पावर प्लांट, the present value of the decommissioning liability will increase because of the shorter period over which the cash flows are discounted. This the same चीज depreciated over the 8 year life. तो ये IAS 8 के बारे में मैंने यहाँ पे बोल दिया. सेम शिट. हाँ. नेक्स्ट पेपर जाते हैं अभी. The cost of repairing the environmental damage and the potential receipt of government compensation. Hmm. COLAT company has in the past repaired minor environmental damage that is caused, but it has never suffered a natural disaster on this scale. There is no legal obligation for COLAT to repair and restore damage caused by the disaster, as this will be the responsibility of the government. So because there is so a provision is created. तो पहले तो IAS 37 के हिसाब से provision कब create होता है? When there is a present obligation, there is a reliable estimate of the amount, and it's probable that the economic benefits का outflow will take place. तो ये इन चार चीजों की, तो इन तीन चीजों की वजह से अपन एक प्रोविजन बनाते हैं. हाँ, एंड अ प्रोविजन शुड बी ईदर कंस्ट्रक्टिव, और देयर शुड बी अ लीगल ऑब्लिगेशन और अ कंस्ट्रक्टिव ऑब्लिगेशन. इन दिस केस हम लोग बोल सकते हैं कि इन द पास्ट हमने कभी इतना बड़ा किया ही नहीं है, डैमेज को रिपेयर. सो देयर इज नो कंस्ट्रक्टिव ऑब्लिगेशन, एंड देयर इज नो लीगल ऑब्लिगेशन बिकॉज अभी कोलैट को वो करना नहीं है, क्योंकि वो गवर्नमेंट करने वाला है रिस्टोर. सो देयर इज नो प्रोविजन दैट नीड्स टू बी क्रिएटेड फॉर दैट एनवायरमेंटल डैमेज. अभी the government announced on 1st of December 17 that there would be a compensation of 50 million available to repair the environmental damage only, and that companies should apply for compensation by 31st of December 17. By 1st of March 18, when the financial statements were approved, Colat had not received an acknowledgement of their application, but no approval. Acha, Colat had received an acknowledgement of the application, but no approval. So according to IAS 37, वो सब provision, contingent liability and contingent assets, it prohibits the recognition of a contingent asset unless the asset is highly probable to occur, or it is virtually certain. If it is virtually certain, then the entire asset is recognized. If it is contingent, if it is probable, then the contingent asset is disclosed. In this case, we can see that the government has only provided an acknowledgement, but no approval has yet been granted. So therefore, no contingent asset will also be recognized for the 50 million available to repair the environmental damage. ये अपन बोल देंगे. चेक कर लेते हैं. COLAT company has in the past put minor environmental damage which has caused, but it has never been involved in the natural disaster on this scale, and there is no legal obligation. A constructive obligation for the environmental cost will only result in the recognition of the provision if there is an established pattern of past practice for published policies or a specific current statement that COLAT company will pay for the damage. In this case, the entity has not indicated to other parties that it will accept certain responsibilities. As a result, it has not created a valid expectation. IAS 37 states that provision should be recognized only when there is a present obligation from past events. The future expected cost would not meet the definition of a provision as there is no legal obligation nor a constructive obligation. In this case, the natural disaster Kolar company is not at fault, and therefore there will be no obligation to create the environmental damage which may be put right by the government. अच्छा, तो ये तो अपना पूरा सही है. दे हैव एक्सप्लेन द कंटिजेंट एसेट थिंग. उन्होंने कंटिजेंट एसेट की तरह नहीं बताया, उन्होंने IAS 20 के बारे में बताया. IAS 20 accounting for government grants and disclosure of government assistance states that government grant is recognized only when there is reasonable assurance that the entity will comply with any conditions attached to the grant and the grant will be received. A grant receivable as a financial support should be recognized as income in the period in which it is receivable. In this case, COLAT company has only received acknowledgement of its application for the grant on 1st of March 18, and therefore there is no reasonable assurance that the grant will be received. Further, it is not probable that the grant will be received, and it should not be disclosed in the financial statement. So we were right about not disclosing that part, but we were not right about the accounting ट्रीटमेंट. इसको कंटिजेंट एसेट की तरह नहीं ट्रीट करना है, इसको गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट की तरह ट्रीट करना है, बिकॉज शायद गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से पैसा आ रहा है इसके लिए. इफ इट वाज फ्रॉम सम अदर फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन देन इट वुड हैव बीन ट्रीटेड एज अ कंटिजेंट एसेट. फिर आता है हेजिंग के बारे में. द हेज ऑफ द कमोडिटी प्राइस रिस्क इन एल्यूमिनियम. हेज ऑफ कमोडिटी प्राइस रिस्क. COLAT hedges commodity price risks in aluminum, and such transactions were classified as highly probable in accordance with IFRS 9 financial instruments. However, the purchases which were considered highly probable prior to the natural disaster are no longer expected to occur. मेरे को चेक करना पड़ेगा. आई हैव नो आइडिया, बट मेरा हेजिंग मेरा बहुत वीक है, ये वाला चेक करना पड़ेगा. Hedging. Prior to the disaster, Colad company hedges commodity price risks in aluminium, and such transactions constituted as highly probable hedge transactions in cash flow hedges under IFRS 9 financial instrument. तो ये तो इन्होंने पूरा का पूरा कॉपी पेस्ट किया हुआ है वहाँ, मतलब वो क्वेश्चन ही इन्होंने, मतलब वो पैराग्राफ ही इन्होंने यहाँ पे कॉपी पेस्ट किया हुआ है, क्वेश्चन ही पैराग्राफ. However, the purchases which were considered highly probable prior to the natural disaster are now not expected to occur. Collat company should follow hedge accounting principle up until the date of natural disaster and then should cease hedge accounting as the forecast transaction is no longer expected to occur. तो बिकॉज अब वो चीज होने नहीं वाली है, तो अपन हेज अकाउंटिंग करना ही बंद कर देंगे. As the forecast transaction is no longer expected to occur, Collat company should reclassify the accumulated gains or losses on the hedging instruments from other comprehensive income to the profit or loss as a reclassification adjustment. तो जब भी hedge accounting होती है, so we usually record it in OCI, लेकिन मतलब वो fair value and in cash transaction वगैरह उसके ऊपर भी करता है डिपेंड. बट यहाँ पर इन्होंने बोला कि अगर hedge अकाउंटिंग है तो फिर जो ओसीआई में पड़ा हुआ होगा उसको रिक्लासिफाई करके पीएनएल में डाल दो, बस उतना ही। लास्ट में पोटेंशियल इंश्योरेंस प्रोसीड्स, दिस मस्ट बी द कंटिंजेंट एसेट का थिंग। COLAT company's insurance policy provides compensations for losses based on the fair value non-current assets. Any temporary relocation cost estimated at 2 million and any revenue lost during the 2-month period from 1st of November 17. At 31st of December 17, it is unclear which events and costs are covered by insurance policies and are significant significant uncertainty exists as to whether any compensation will be paid. Before the financial statements are approved, it was probable that the insurance claim for the loss of non-current assets would be paid, but no further information was available about other insured losses. The insurance policy does not cover environmental damage, which is the responsibility of the government. ये तो सही है. It is unclear which event that cost insurance policy covers. So जो relocation costs है ना, that is not covered as a provision. मतलब relocation cost को हम कभी provision नहीं बता सकते. It is not included and that cannot be included in the contingent asset also which will be received करके. तो द रेवेन्यू लॉस मतलब वो ऑपरेटिंग है तो सबसे पहले बात तो IAS 37 के अनुसार प्रोविजन क्या होता है वो अपन ने ऊपर लिखा हुआ कॉपी पेस्ट यहाँ पर करेंगे। रिलोकेशन के लिए नहीं बन सकता, उसके लिए नहीं बन सकता, ये सब बोल देंगे। हाउएवर वो चीज नहीं है यहाँ पे उतनी ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट। इम्पोर्टेंट है कि वो कंटिजेंट एसेट है कि नहीं है। सो देखो, सिग्निफिकेंट अनसर्टेनिटी एग्जिस्ट वेदर द कंपनसेशन विल बी पेड। Before the financial statements are approved, it was probable that the insurance will be paid, but no further information available. So there is no further information available on the other insured losses. तो मुझे नहीं लगता कि कंटिजेंट एसेट को अभी के अभी रिकॉग्नाइज करने की कोई जरूरत है। ठीक है, इज व्हाट आई थिंक। चेक करते हैं। IAS 37 does not permit the recognition of contingent assets. Accordingly, an insurance recovery asset can only be recognized if it is determined that the entity has a valid insurance policy which includes cover for the incident and a claim will be settled by the insurer. The recognition of the insurance recovery will only be appropriate when its realization is virtually certain. Exactly. So, in order to qualify as an asset for contingent asset, तो contingent asset के लिए probable होना चाहिए और normal asset के लिए virtually certain होना चाहिए, in which case the insurance recovery is no longer a contingent asset. Decisions about the recognition and measurement of losses are made independently of those relating to recognition of any compensation which might be receivable. It is not appropriate to take potential proceeds into account which when potential proceeds into account when accounting for the losses. The potential receipt of compensation should be assessed continually to ensure that it is appropriately reflected in the financial statements. The asset and the related income are recognized in the period in which it is determined. The asset and the related income is recognized in the period in which it is determined that a compensation will be received, which means reviewing the situation after the end of the reporting period and before the date of approval of the financial statements. I'm a little lost here. Wait a second. The asset. तो हम एक एसेट को तभी रिकॉग्नाइज कर सकते हैं when it is determined that the compensation will be received, which means reviewing the situation after the end of the reporting period and before the approval of the financial statements. तो ये चीज एसेट को हम तभी रिकॉग्नाइज कर सकते हैं जब वो रिपोर्टिंग पीरियड और फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स के बीच में हाईली प्रोबेबल हो या डिटरमाइन। तो उस टाइम पे अपने को रिव्यू करना चाहिए, रिव्यू द सिचुएशन आफ्टर द आफ्टर द रिपोर्टिंग पीरियड एंड अप्रूवल ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स कि ये एसेट हाईली प्रोबेबल है कि नहीं है, ऐसा। इसने पहले हमें यही बोला था कि द पोटेंशियल रिसीट ऑफ कंपेंसेशन शुड बी असेस्ड कंटिन्यूअली टू इंश्योर दैट इट इज अप्रोप्रिएटली रिफ्लेक्टेड इन द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट। सो कंटिन्यूअसली चेक करना चाहिए कि पोटेंशियल पोटेंशियल रिसीट मिलने वाला है कि नहीं मिलने वाला है, ऐसा। In this case, it appears probable that insurance claim for loss of non-current assets would be paid, and this information was received before the financial statement was approved. The potential proceeds of 280 million should be disclosed in the financial statement for the year ended 31st of December 17. There would be no disclosure. ये रहा. There would be no disclosure for the recovery or of the insurance recovery related to the relocation costs or the lost revenue, as recovery is not virtually certain. ये दोनों चीजें वर्चुअली सर्टन नहीं है, इसके लिए इन दोनों को रिकॉग्नाइज नहीं करना है, या इन दोनों के लिए वो कंटिंजेंट एसेट को यूज नहीं करना है। The insurance policy does not cover environmental damage, which is the responsibility of, हाँ ये तो कॉपी पेस्ट किया हुआ है लास्ट का लाइन, मेक द टू मेक द आंसर बिग। ठीक है।